Ain't this what they've been waiting for? You ready? I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this, so I had to grind like that, to shine like this. In a matter of time I spent on some locked up in the back of the paddy wagon, cuffs locked on wrist. See my dreams unfold, nightmares come true. It was time to marry the game, and I said, yeah, I do. If you want it, you gotta see it with a clear eye view. Got shorty, she tryna bless me like I said I do. Like a sneeze, please for them tricks, squeeze them, getting cream. Never let them get in between of what we started. Look, but I'm lying hearted. They love me when I was stuck in their head. When I departed, I go and get it regardless. Draw like I'm an artist, no crawling, went straight to walking with foreigns in my garages. A foreign menage, sucking and swallowing anything for $1. They tell me get 'em, I got 'em. Yes.
I
did it without an album.
It's the build up to get you prepared for the day.
With
Once you like
love, I'm on fire.
wake up in the morning,
Icy as a hockey ring, feeling
get ready.
flying.
Get ready to have a
When I bought the
successful day.
Rolls Royce, they thought it
Especially
was
after the
leased.
week we just
Then I
had.
bought that new Ferrari. Hey,
This
to rest in
weekend,
peace.
football,
Hey,
last
to rest in
night.
peace. Rest in peace to the parking lot. Phantom so big, can't even fit in the parking spot. You ain't talking about my, then what you talking about? Gangsters moving silent, and I don't talk a lot. I don't say a word. I don't say a word. Was on my grind and then I got what I deserve.
Here we go, here we go.
Hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished? When I bought that Aston Martin, y'all thought it was ready. Flexing on these, so like Papa on the spinach. Double M, that's my team. Rose the captain, I'm lieutenant. I'm the type kind of man casting grind.
Top of the morning, folks. Man, I hope everybody's having a beautiful and blessed day. It is Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. Oh man. It's another day of the week, man. We're live and we well. Just let's be thankful for this day. And man, let's go ahead and hop right into it. This is the breakdown. X's and O's with Nate Ness. I'm your host, Nate Ness, and my gosh, we got an amazing week one. We got an amazing week one. Competitive football. Football is back. Everybody was excited. You saw great games. You got a chance to see your team go out there, win, lose, or draw. Go out there and compete. You're excited. What more can we ask for? Let me go ahead and get a second. An encore. And that's exactly what we got. This week 2 of the NFL 2022 season kicked off amazing. We got a great game on Thursday between the Chargers and the Chiefs. Sunday and Monday Night Football was just out this world. Now, gotta go ahead and send some prayers and well wishes and speedy recovery for the San Francisco 49ers quarterback Trey Lance, who broke his ankle. He's done for the year. But hey, speedy recovery. Hey, setback is a setup for a comeback. So come back stronger and better than ever, young brother. But let's go ahead and hop right into it. Exciting weekend. I'm talking about 3 comeback victories, some upsets. Oh, and we also had a walk-off touchdown in overtime in one game. Oh man. Then on Monday Night Football, we just had complete domination in both games. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. We're gonna head to Baltimore first, as the Baltimore Ravens host the Miami Dolphins, my old team. And this was the game right here, in my opinion, that Tua's coming out party. Now, there was a lot of talk about Tua not being the quarterback for the Dolphins at the beginning of the season, especially how they fared his first year and the last season. You know, him being injured and them, having so much talent on that team and not, really letting it pan out. But this was his coming out game. And this is one of the games where the Dolphins actually had to come back. Tua had a career day. And what better way than to have a career day on the road against a great football team such as the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Tua finished the day, 36 for 50 for 469 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Yes, I said 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. These are all career highs for the young man. Now, Raheem Mostert, he actually did pretty well on the ground with 11 carries for 51 yards. But this is where the game took off. The Dolphins had 2 receivers that recorded over 170 yards receiving, with Tyreek Cheetah Hill leading the way with 11 receptions for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Jalen Waddle, who had 11 receptions for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. He actually had the game-winning touchdown, and it was a beauty. It was a pass where he had to go up and nobody could get it but him from Tua, and it was amazing. Now, Mike Gesicki, he chipped in 4 receptions for 41 yards and 1 touchdown. But the Ravens, they didn't have a bad game. You know, I don't know if this was more so less the Ravens losing the game or the Dolphins coming back and just taking the game from them. But Lamar Jackson had another solid week. going 21 for 29 for 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he also rushed the ball 9 times for 119 yards and another touchdown. I don't know why, but Baltimore, I think I need to hurry up and pay this man. Each day he doesn't get paid, the price tag goes up because he's going out there playing amazing football. Now, Rashad Bateman, he actually led the receivers with 4 receptions for 108 yards and 1 touchdown. And Mark Andrews, again, Mark Andrews is coming. He is coming. He is top 5 tight end in the game. He actually had a great game, 4 receptions for 104 yards and 1 touchdown. And DeMarcus Robinson also chipped in with another touchdown. Now, this right here, to start off the game, to start off Sunday, this was actually one of my favorite games. I mean, both young quarterbacks played amazing. The Ravens, they were actually in control of this game, leading the game 28-7 at halftime, up by 3 scores. But the Dolphins came out the second half, and it was a half to remember, to be honest with you. Now, scoring 35 points in the second half, with Jalen Waddle, again, catching the game-winning touchdown pass with 22 seconds left. And this was a game where the Dolphins actually willed themselves. I mean, Mike McDaniels, great job, coach. You said you wanted to see your team battle in some adversity. This was a perfect test for your team to come back in adversity, being down 3 scores and coming back to win this game 42-38. So congratulations to the Dolphins. All right, now this was actually one of the upsets of the day. So we're gonna head to Cleveland, where the New York Jets take on the Cleveland Browns. And I must tell you, Joe Flacco had a game. Now he went back into the vote, back to his Baltimore days, and he played amazing. I mean, amazing, great game. Joe Flacco finished the game 26 for 44 for 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, the Jets had a bevy of receivers that chipped in and put in some that helped the team and the team with Garrett Wilson leading the way with 8 receptions for 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. Corey Davis chipping in 2 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown, and Breece Hall having another reception touchdown. Now, this was a game in which the Browns kind of squandered it away. They were in control, but they squandered it away. Now, Jacoby Brissett, again, he's filling in for Deshaun Watson until he finishes his suspension. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. 22 for 27 for 229 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Nick Chubb, again, we know the identity of the Browns. The identity of the Browns is ground and pound. The running game, they have an amazing offensive line and 2 amazing backs there in Cleveland that can really get the job and get it going. Nick Chubb had a monster game, 17 carries for 87 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Kareem Hunt chipped in 13 carries for 58 yards. So that's a great production from your running backs. And Amari Cooper had a great game, 9 receptions for 101 yards, 1 touchdown. But this was a game, in my opinion, the Jets just took it. The Browns controlled the game all the way up to the 4th quarter. But we saw, again, Joe Flacco go back in time and just pull out an amazing performance. The team scored 2 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes of the game. So this is more so less about the Jets wanting it a little bit more than the Cleveland Browns. And they steal this game from the Browns 31-30. All right, let's go ahead and head to Ford Field, my old stumping grounds, as the Washington Commanders come in and take on the Detroit Lions. Now, the Commanders actually did pretty well. They're coming off a Week 1 win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Detroit Lions are actually coming off a Week 1 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. So they're looking to get back on track, while the Commanders are actually looking to build off of that Week 1 win. Now, Carson Wentz had a solid showing. Now, we know the talk about Carson Wentz and, him giving the ball away. But in this game right here, he actually fared pretty well, going 30 for 46 for 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Antonio Gibson in the ground game, it really didn't get going. They were limited, as he had 14 carries for 28 yards, but he also had a receiving touchdown. Now, the Commanders had a lot of guys chip in on the receiving end. Curtis Samuel leading the way with 7 receptions for 78 yards, 1 touchdown, and Josh Doctson chipping in 4 receptions for 59 yards and 1 touchdown. Also, Logan Thomas also had 3 receptions and another receiving touchdown. But this game right here was about the Lions. Now, we know the thing about Jared Goff. He was traded from the Lions, traded to the Lions from the Rams, and again, it was like he wasn't there. He couldn't control and command the offense. We couldn't trust on Jared Goff you couldn't lean on Jared Goff to lead a team in a 2-minute and drive down the field and pick a team apart. But yesterday, this was arguably his most finest showing in his career. Jared Goff, he went 20 for 34 for 256 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He looked poised in the pocket, confident. The play calling and the game plan that day was executed to a T. Now, DeAndre Swift had a nice game. 5 carries for 56 yards, 2 receptions for 31 yards and a receiving touchdown. And Jamal Williams chipped in 12 carries for 53 yards and another touchdown. But again, a lot of people chipped in this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown led the receivers with 9 receptions for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he also had 2 carries for 68 yards. This guy is getting all-purpose yards and just really out there doing it. Him and DeAndre Swift are fantasy teams love, like they love him. Now, Jay Reynolds also had 3 receptions for 38 yards and 1 touchdown. But then this is a game where, when we talk about the Lions, you know what? Lions are a team that fight. Every team that plays in the NFL is a team that fights when adversity comes. Nobody just lays down and just, again, takes it. But they always fight. And this is one of the games where it's like, hey, they got it all going in the right direction. They had a great start going into halftime. They were winning 22-0. Now, they let their foot off the gas a little bit, but again, they got started fast. Now, the Commanders, they battled back, and they were in the game the whole time. The game was never out of reach for the Commanders. And Jared Goff, as I said before, he had a monster game. Carson Wentz had a great game as well. But this game was about the Lions and Coach Dan Campbell getting them to start fast and to finish strong. And they get the big win, 36-27. Congratulations, guys. Proud of y'all. All right, AFC South showdown. We're going down to Jacksonville, where the Jacksonville Jaguars host the Indianapolis Colts. Now, this right here was a game that the Colts want to forget. But let's go back to last season. The Colts only had to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars to get into the playoffs, and they squandered that away. They go back down there again this year, and they get shut out. This was a horrible game. From the opening kickoff to the final whistle, this is a horrible game, and I know that this was a nightmare for them. Matt Ryan had probably one of the worst days of his career, going 16 for 30 for 195 yards and 3 interceptions. Jonathan Taylor only had 9 carries for 54 yards, but they couldn't focus in on the run game because they fell behind early. A.J. Dillon, he also had 5 receptions for 79 yards to lead the receivers. Now, Trevor Lawrence, this was probably his best game that he's had since he became a pro. And I mean 25 for 30 for 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Great call game and great game plan from Doug Peterson for his young signal caller. Now, Trevor didn't force it. Trevor actually let the game come to him. And guys really chipped in and chipped in a big way. James Robinson helped on the ground game, 23 carries for 64 yards, 1 touchdown. And Christian Kirk chipped in 6 receptions for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. But again, this is a rough game for the Colts. Now, the Jaguars were able to get pressure on Matt Ryan. And with that pressure, it comes turnovers. Not being able to stand in the pocket, Eric throws, trying to get the ball out, and the play is not fully developed and there yet. That's what happens. And this game was about Trevor Lawrence. This was his finest game, and hopefully he can build off of this game as a pro. Doug Peterson, great game plan coach, great execution of your game plan for your young signal caller. And the Jaguars dominated their AFC rivals and shut them out 24-0. Now this right here was the game. I don't know if you guys are AFC or division games in itself, they're rivalry games, because this team, you got to play them 2 times a year, and in order for you to win, to get to the playoffs, you got to win your division. You know what? It's bragging rights for the year, and guys do not like each other. Tampa Bay Buccaneers flying in New Orleans, and we know that these teams do not like each other. It's a fight every time. It gets real spicy down there in New Orleans. But this game right here was wild, and I say that. Now, Tom Brady, he didn't have a great game. Again, the offense is still trying to find its rhythm and trying to find its heartbeat. But again, he had 18 for 34 for 190 yards, 1 touchdown. Leonard Fournette didn't really do much on the ground, as he had 24 carries for 65 yards. Brashad Perryman led the Bucks with receiving in 3 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown. Now, the Saints, on the other hand, one thing we know about James, the one thing that's plagued him his whole career is, as good as the talent he is as a quarterback, he'd get a ball away. He'd give it up. Evidence in this year, he went 30 for 30. 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. And this was a game where, again, Jameis can't keep playing, trying to play hero ball and trying to force it. And he forced it, and he paid for it big time, going 25 for 40 for 236 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Now, that's one of the things that you gotta deal with when you're having a quarterback such as Jameis Winston, talented, gunslinger mentality. But he has to go ahead and back off of that gunslinger mentality because it gets him in trouble. It gets his team in trouble. Now, Mark Ingram, he filled in for the injured Alvin Kamara, and he had 10 carries for 60 yards. And Michael Thomas chipped in 6 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown. But again, the games between these two teams, it is physical. It's intense. There's a lot of trash talking. It's a lot of physical, it's a physical game. And if you know anything, the Bucks have not beat the Saints in a regular season game in the last 2 seasons. So it's a lot on it. But again, as I stated before, Winston's biggest problem is that he gives the ball up. And this was a close game all the way up until there was a brawl. I don't know what that brawl did where Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore were ejected, but it lit a fire underneath the Bucks' ass. And excuse me, but it lit a fire. Now, one thing we know about the Bucks is that they got a nasty defense. Coach Bowles, Coach Rogers, that team, that defense, ooh, they play physical, they play fast, they play aggressive, they play disciplined football. And Jameis gave them the ball. 3 interceptions and 1 being returned for a touchdown. This all happened after the big brawl where you seen those 2 players get ejected. I don't know what it was, but you know what? They turned and flipped on that switch. Now the Bucks offense has not really got going, but that defense, it's gonna be hard to really beat them with that defense because they give the offense opportunities. You know what? But again, this was a great game. The Bucks, they finally get a regular season win against the Saints, 20-10. So congratulations. All right, to Heinz Field we go as the New England Patriots travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Now, again, this wasn't a pretty game. This is a low-scoring game. Low-scoring game, you know what? All about defensive, the defense and each possession. Who's going to make the play on each possession? Who's going to make the mistake? Mac Jones, not a great game, but again, the young man, he had 21 for 35 for 252 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Now, the one thing that the Patriots got to get going to help the young Mac Jones out is getting the running game going. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, they have to be in control. They have to get going well. That's going to be able to sustain drives. It's going to be able to open up the play action and everything. And then on top of that, the Patriots need a true number 1 receiver. Somebody in that stable has to, separate themselves from the pack, saying that, I'm going to be the alpha in this room. Now, Damian Harris had a solid game. 17 carries for 71 yards, 1 touchdown, and Ramondre Stevenson's chipped in 9 carries for 47 yards. That's about 120 yards right there. They had 120 yards on the ground, and they controlled the clock, averaging about 4.5 yards a pop that game. Nelson Aguilar had a solid game with 6 receptions for 110 yards and 1 touchdown. And also, Jacoby Myers also chipped in 9 receptions for 95 yards. Somebody in that receiver group has to step up. Somebody's got to, say, hey, I'm the alpha, I'm the big dog in this room. I'm going to make a play. I'm going to win my one-on-one matchup. Now, this wasn't Mitchell Trubisky's best game, but again, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard because the resume of Mitchell Trubisky. He struggles, and at times you got to get him play calling, get things going, get the running game going, get him going early, get him in the flow of the game early. And he really didn't fare bad, but he didn't have a great game. 21 for 33, 468 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Now, the one thing that you got to keep him focused. You got to keep him in confidence. And you heard the Steeler fans cheering and yelling Kenny Pickett to come in. Now, that's not going to help. You got to ride with this guy right now because he's the quarterback. He's leading the offense. So again, support and help him. You know what I'm saying? Now, Najee Harris can have a big game. 15 carries for 49 yards, but he has to get going. Coach Tomlin, you got to get him going and get the ball going in his hand early, whether it's running the ball or passing the ball. He has to get the ball. Man, he has to help this young Mitchell Trubisky as this team, the Pittsburgh Steelers team, they're, again, like the Cleveland Browns, a ground and pound team. They got to rely heavily on a running game to open up the passing game. Now, he also had 5 receptions for 40 yards. But again, got to see more week in and week out from Najee Harris because this guy's a big talent, Pro Bowl back. He is a guy that can literally, with his size, his speed, what he can do, his athleticism, he needs to be touching the ball, and we have to be a focal point in your game plan week in and week out. Now, Deontay Johnson, he had led the receivers with 6 receptions, 57 yards, and Pat Freiermuth, he is, again, a up-and-coming tight end, that's getting better and better week in, week out. He chipped in 4 receptions for 22 yards and 1 touchdown. But as I said, week 2 game, this is a defensive game between 2 defensive teams and 2 of the league's best and longest tenured coaches. Now, this is the type of game that Bill Belichick likes, to be honest with you. The Patriots offense, who still needs to find his playmakers, again, guys that they can depend on through that, especially as you get longer or during the year. Guys that are going to be able to step up at crunch time and just really be able to give you that necessary play that you need. Now, one thing is for sure is that when you get the ground game going with the Patriots, they are a team that can really have those long 9-10 minute drives that can make the game long, that can wear your defense out. And it's important, it's imperative that Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson get going early to help Mac Jones. This is the type of game and game plan that Bill Belichick wants. He wants to run the ball. He wants to open up the run, control the clock, open up the play action, wear your defense down, have those long drives. He wants it to be a slow game, not a high tempo, high scoring game. He wants it to be a slow game. Again, and this is what's going to help the Patriot offense right now as they're still trying to figure their identity out. Now, Mitchell Trubisky wasn't great, but Pittsburgh was never out of the game. And I believe they have to lean a lot more on Najee. Najee has to get going. Coach Tomlin, you got to get the running game going. You got to get those linemen going north and south, and having Najee Harris go north. Go ahead, put the team on your back and do what you have to do. But again, this is a great game. New England sneaks out of Heinz Field with a 17-14 win. All right, we're going to head to LA to SoFi Stadium. As the Atlanta Falcons, they travel to take on the LA Rams. Now, the Falcons started extremely slow, but they got going in the second half. Marcus Mariota, he went 17 for 26 for 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, Cordero Patterson, he chipped in 10 carries for 41 yards. It wasn't much on the ground game, but it's still, it was there. Now, Drake London, the rookie from USC, he had a nice game. A solid, hey, how you doing? Hey, my name is Drake game. 8 receptions for 94 yards, 1 touchdown. And Olamide Zaccheaus, he also had a receiving touchdown on the day. But the Rams, again, trying to rebound from that week 1 demolishing from the Buffalo Bills, they still got a lot of work to do. Matthew Stafford, 27 for 36 for 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He gotta limit those interceptions right there in itself. I don't know if it's the elbow mat or whatever it is, but you can't give the ball away. You and I both know turnovers are keys to they're not keys to success. So you got to go ahead and make sure you're getting into your reads and pre-snap, post-snap, and knowing where you're going to go. And don't force it. Now, Darrell Henderson had a solid game, 10 carries for 47 yards and 1 touchdown, and Cam Akers had 15 carries for 44 yards. As I said before, it's going to sound like a broken record. The Rams got to get the running game going. It's a lot of quarterbacks and offenses. If you can get your running game going, you don't know the importance of that and what it does for your offense, what it does for your team, what it does for the play calling and whatnot, and it opens it up big time. Now, Cooper Kupp, another monster game. 11 receptions for 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyler Higbee also had a receiving touchdown. 7 receptions, 71 yards. And Allen Robinson had his coming out party. 4 receptions for 53 yards and 1 touchdown. Now again, you got to get that production. Now this is a game where the Rams controlled it all the way for 3 quarters. But going into the 4th quarter, they were up 28-10. The Falcons, they battled back. And when I mean battle back, they scored 17 points in the 4th quarter. Now, there are a few things that need to get fixed with the Rams. Again, as I said before, Matthew Stafford's interceptions. Who's going to be the receiver to step up outside of Cooper Kupp? Because right now, what teams are being able to do, they're bracket coveraging Cooper Kupp. Again, somebody's got to win their individual one-on-one battles and their opportunities on the backside. And the Rams defense in itself, it must be better. But the Falcons, they battled. I mean, I know they're again, a loss is a loss, but still, they battled and competed. But they fell short in this game, 31-27. All right, NFC West showdown. The Seattle Seahawks travel to San Fran to take on the 49ers. Now, again, before I say anything, I want to go ahead and send my prayers and my best wishes to Trey Lance. Broke his ankle this game, second series of the game, and just it was a nasty, gruesome injury. Pray for a speedy recovery and a good surgery, young fella. But let's go ahead and get to it. Geno Smith, amazing week last week where he had the quote of the year, where people wrote him out, but he didn't write back. Now, you would hope that he was going to build off of this week, but he didn't. This is a game where I don't want to sound, very critical, but we saw Geno, what we're used to. Going 24 for 30 for 197 yards and 1 interception. Got to get better, Geno. Got to get better. And get better with the play calling and the reading. This is your offense. This is your team. Go ahead and rewrite that story. Don't write back. Go ahead and write a different story. Now, Rashad Penny, the running game, they couldn't get going. They fell behind early, going 6 carries for 15 yards. But Tyler Lockett had a solid game in a losing effort, 9 receptions for 107 yards. But as this was about the 49ers, and when Trey went out, Jimmy came in. And the 49ers got back to what their identity is, what their brand of football is. And it was amazing. He came in, Jimmy Garoppolo, 13 for 21 for 154 yards, 1 passing touchdown. He also had 1 rushing touchdown. Jeff Wilson, he led them on the ground with 18 carries for 84 yards. Now, they had a lot of guys chipping in different areas. This was a combined team effort. As Brandon Ayuk led the receivers with 5 receptions for 63 yards. Deebo Samuel chipped in 5 receptions for 44 yards and 4 carries for 53 yards. And Ross Dwelly, he had 1 reception for 38 yards, which happened to be the touchdown. Now, 49ers built off last week. Again, coming off the loss to the Bears, and they want the rebound. But in the process, they lost their second-year quarterback in the second series. Man, so in comes Jimmy Garoppolo. being the consummate pro and being ready. The veteran signal caller, he brought in leadership. He brought in calmness. He brought balance to that 49er offense. Now, it wasn't a pretty game, but San Fran was, again, able to get back to their identity. And this is their identity. They want to run the ball. Run the ball well. And what running does, it actually opens up the play action game, which is Jimmy's strength. You open up the action game and you can hit those intermediate routes, those deep overs, take your shots here and there, Deebo Samuel, those crossing routes and whatnot, the yards after the catch. And they play great defense. Again, that's their formula for success. And the Hawks, they just couldn't find no rhythm on offense. That's really all it was. They couldn't find no rhythm on offense, and Geno struggled. But this is a great rivalry game. This is a great division. And the 49ers, they get a big NFC West division win in dominating fashion, 27-7. All right, we're going to head to New York to the Meadowlands now, where the New York Giants host the Carolina Panthers. And again, another defensive game, another one-score game. Baker Mayfield and the Panthers wasn't bad, but he didn't have that flash and that oomph. He went 14 for 29, 145 yards, 1 touchdown. They struggled finding that consistency on offense. Now, Christian McCaffrey, he had a great game. 15 carries for 102 yards, and he also chipped in 4 receptions for 26 yards. And DJ Moore, he didn't have big numbers, but he did lead the receivers with 3 receptions for 43 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, the Giants, on the other hand, Daniel Jones. Again, if he can play and not turn the ball over and get wins, that's all it's about, is getting wins. Week in, week out. That after it's all said and done, when the clock reads 0-0-0-0-0, who's got the win, who's got the loss? That's all that matters. Daniel Jones didn't have the biggest numbers, but he chipped in 22 for 34 for 176 yards, 1 touchdown. Saquon Barkley, 21 carries for 72 yards, and he also had 3 receptions for 16 yards. And Richie James chipped in and led the receivers with 5 receptions for 51 yards. Now, this is very much a defensive game. You know, both teams were only able to score 1 touchdown apiece. Nothing flashy on either side's offense. Panthers, they struggled on 3rd down, going 2 for 12, while New York was 6 of 18 on 3rd down. Both teams didn't put up the big numbers on offense, and they both had under 300 yards of total offense. 275 for the Panthers and 265 for the Giants. But enough plays were made for the Giants to win this game, 19-16. All right, to AT&T Stadium, as the Dallas Cowboys, looking to rebound from their Week 1 loss to Tampa Bay Bucks, host the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this has been a year for the Bengals. Now, Joe Burrow, not bad, not good, not what you're expected to see of him. Going 24 for 36 for 199 yards, 1 touchdown. And Joe Mixon chipped in 19 carries for 57 yards. T. Higgins led the receivers with 6 receptions for 71 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, Cooper Rush, he's filling in for Dak Prescott. And again, Dak's going to be out for about 5 to 6 weeks, recovering from that thumb surgery. But he did very well, in my opinion, very well, and I was impressed. 19-31 for 235 yards, 1 touchdown. Again, very nice. You know, numbers may not be eye-popping, but he did what he had to do. Now, Ezekiel Elliott led them on the ground with 15 carries for 53 yards, and Tony Pollard, 9 carries for 43 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 receptions for 55 yards. That's where Dallas is going to have to lean on, those 2 backs. Zeke's got to go ahead and go back to, you know, what his rookie year where he was dominant, and the change of pace back, Tony Pollard, continue to make those plays, continue to get him the ball and open space and whatnot. Now, Noah Brown had a big game. 5 receptions for 91 yards and 1 touchdown, and CeeDee Lamb chipped in 7 receptions for 75 yards. Now, this was Dallas' first game without Dak, and the Cowboys have to rely on a balanced attack of run and pass and a dominating defense. Now, this Dallas defense is a problem. Micah Parsons, problem. I really feel like this guy's the second coming of Lawrence Taylor. Again, I know that's big, that's high praise, but this guy, he's putting up the numbers. It's put up or shut up, and he's putting it out there on the field and on the film. Now, again, I don't want to misspeak on the Bengals, but the first 2 games they struggled mightily. First game they turned the ball over 5 times, yet they were still in the game. And this one they struggled protecting Joe Burrow as he was sacked 6 times, but yet they were still in the game. That tells you something. That this team has a lot of fight in them. They just got to get the early season mistakes and get those corrected. And again, pressure was on nonstop, from the Cowboys, their pass rush. And they're getting the pass rush from a standard 4-man rush. Again, they got to go ahead and protect Joe. But this is a game where I commend Cooper Rush. He played a solid game and let the game come to him. He didn't try to force it. He went out there and played his type of game. And the Cowboys were able to get a big win on a Brett Meyer field goal, 20-17. All right, Mile High we go. Houston Texans versus Denver Broncos. Now, Davis Mills had a solid showing in week 1, but this one was really bland, and this one was really quiet. You know what? He went 19 for 38 for 177 yards, and Pierce led them on the ground with 15 carries for 69 yards. Nick Collins led them in the receiving with 4 receptions for 58 yards, and Brandon Cooks chipped in 4 receptions for 54 yards. They didn't score offensive touchdown. Now, Russell Wilson, he struggled. He struggled last week, and he struggled a little bit this week. Now, he's trying to get his footing with, get everything in line with Coach Hackett and with this Bronco offense. He went 14 for 31 for 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But they got solid production on the ground game from Javonte Williams, 15 carries, 75 yards, and Melvin Gordon, 10 carries for 47 yards. Cortland Sutton, he led the team in receiving with 7 receptions for 122 yards, and Eric Sauber had 1 reception for 22 yards, which was the only touchdown of the game. Now, this was a game of struggle for both teams offensively. Both teams, literally, at creating and maintaining drives. As the Texans went 2 for 15 on 3rd down, and the Broncos were 3 for 12 on 3rd down. You got to be able to sustain drives, and you can't. Somebody's got to win on 3rd down. 3rd down is very, very important to the success of any team, offensively and defensively. Now, the Broncos, they were down 9-6 going into the 4th quarter, but the offense was able to get something going, scoring 10 points, and Russell Wilson, he connected with Eric Sauber on a 22-yard touchdown pass. Now, this is a game for the Broncos where, again, they got to get the offense going. They're still struggling on offense and finding the identity of this offense and the play call. But they get their first win of the season, and that's what it's about, 16-9. Now, the most exciting game of the day. Arizona Cardinals traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Now, this wasn't a pretty game at all, but it was very exciting. Kyler Murray, 31 for 49 for 277 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also had 5 carries for 28 yards and another touchdown on the ground. Darrell Williams, he led them on the ground with 59 yards on 8 carries and 1 rushing touchdown. Now, Zach Ertz chipped in 8 receptions for 75 yards, and Hollywood Brown, 6 receptions for 68 yards. And Greg Dortch had 4 receptions for 55 yards and a touchdown. Now, Derek Carr, not bad. Really not bad. 25, 39, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, as I expect to see more and more of him in the running game, 16 carries for 69 yards. And Darren Waller, he led them with receiving with 6 receptions for 50 yards, 1 touchdown, and Devontae Adams had 2 receptions for 12 yards and another touchdown. Arizona's defense was able to really limit, the Devontae Adams from going off, and they had great bracket coverage on him. I commend them for the game plan that they had. But in a great, exciting game, and this is a game where the Raiders, they were in control up until the 4th quarter. I mean, they shut the Cardinals out in the first half. But it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. The Cardinals had to rally, and when I say rally, they scored 29 points all in the second half and in overtime. Being down 16 points heading into the 4th quarter, they put on a comeback for the ages. I'm talking about having to score 2 touchdowns and get 2-point conversions. That's very hard, but they did it. And they sent the game into overtime. And in overtime, the Cardinals, they get the walk-off touchdown. When I say walk-off touchdown, it was a play where Hunter Renfrow, he caught an out route, and fighting for yards, he fumbles the ball. Isaiah Simmons comes in and puts the helmet on the ball, and the ball pops out, and Byron Murphy Jr. scooped and scored at 59 yards for the walk-off touchdown, and the Cardinals win 29-23. All right. Now, rivalries. We talked about this. Division rivalries. But some rivalries, they cut deep. And I'm talking about Sunday Night Football. The Chicago Bears traveling to Green Bay to take on the Green Bay Packers. Now, Justin Fields, not a great game. Again, and something's got to change with the Bears. You have a great quarterback in Justin Fields, and again, we can't see his talent unless you guys, again, take him off. Go ahead, go out there, let him play, let him go out there and learn. Again, you don't want to make mistakes, but only way you're gonna learn is through experience and through those mistakes. He went 70-11 for 70 yards and 1 interception, but he also carried the ball 8 times for 20 yards, 1 touchdown. Those aren't winning numbers. David Montgomery, monster game, 15 carries for 122 yards. And Equanimous St. Brown, he led them with 39 yards receiving. As you can see, it was one of those games. Now, the Packers, on the other hand, we know what we were saying. After week 1, again, Aaron didn't show up. It was a tough game for him. Kind of very, very reminiscent of when he had a same thing happen a couple years ago where he actually spelled out relax to the press. Okay, I guess we got to relax. Aaron Rodgers had a solid game, 19 for 25 to 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, as I said before in my previous breakdown, the Packers are going to have to rely heavily on these running backs. And I mean Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. They're going to have to rely on them because, again, until somebody separates themselves and identifies themselves as the top receiving target, they're going to rely heavily on these running backs. And Aaron Jones had a game, 15 carries for 132 yards and 1 touchdown, and 3 receptions for 38 yards and another receiving touchdown. And A.J. Dillon had 18 carries for 61 yards. Solid production. Over 200 yards on the ground for the Packers. Amazing. Now, Sammy Watkins, he led the receivers with 3 receptions for 93 yards, and Alan Lazard in his first game back had a receiving touchdown. Now, we spoke on the Packers and how they struggled. Now, again, Packers are going to have to rely heavily on these running backs in this running game. And they showed up, and they showed up in a big way. And the Packers did that. I commend the play calling. The Packers got over 200 yards on the ground, and Aaron Rodgers was able to get something going in the passing game. Now, Chicago, they got to do a better job. Now, just keep it 100. You got to do a better job at play calling with Justin Fields. You got to use his strengths and whatnot. You're keeping him in the cage, and again, you got to unleash that talent that he has. He has completed the least amount of passes in the NFL in the first 2 games in NFL history. He's completed 15 total passes, between 8 in the first week and 7 this week. That's not going to win you football games. Coach Eberflus, you have to let this guy go. You got to, again, if you want to make, the most of this first season coaching, you got to take chances, man. You got to gamble. You cannot play. You got to play not to, you got to play to win and play not to lose. No, you got to play to win and go out there and be aggressive. But again, 11 pass attempts, you're not going to be able to get it done, especially playing against the Packers. And these teams, the Minnesota Vikings, these teams that can actually pass the ball, again, you got to go out there, you got to have a game plan, you got to let Justin Herbert go out there and slang that thing. So I expect to see a more aggressive game plan in the next game. But the Packers, they get a huge division win, and I guess you can say Aaron kind of quieted the critics. As A-Rod said, he owns the Bears, and I believe it's so because they win 27-10. All right, about to close off week 2 with 2 monster Monday Night Football games. These games were amazing. I mean, they had me like this the whole game. We're going to start off with the Tennessee Titans traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. The Bills that I predict to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And this was a game where, you know what? The Bills dominated. They dominated week 1 against the defending Super Bowl champion Rams. They dominated again in all 3 phases of the game. Ryan Tannehill, he struggled mightily, going 11 for 20 for 117 yards and 2 interceptions. Now, Derrick Henry was quiet on the ground, 13 carries for 25 yards and 1 touchdown. And Robert Woods led the Titans in receiving with 4 receptions for 39 yards. But the Bills dominated. I mean, I love the game plan. I love the game plan that Coach Ken Dorsey had for Josh Allen. I love the calls. I love how Coach McDermott's got the defense and the team and the special teams playing the way they're playing with confidence. And they're playing like they're on the mission. Josh Allen, 26 for 38 for 317 yards, 4 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, y'all better put some respect on Diggs. I remember playing against him when he was in Minnesota. He's different. He's a different dude. And he had an amazing game. 12 receptions for 148 yards, 3 touchdowns, career high, ties a career high, excuse me. And Reggie Gilliam, he had the fullback, 2 receptions for 17 yards, 1 touchdown. Stephon Diggs is dominating, and he's playing out this world. Somebody's got to stick this man. And somebody's got to go ahead and put their hands on him and get him at the line of scrimmage and get his timing off, the timing that him and Josh Allen had. But again, this was a game that was a dominating game for the Bills. I mean, they punished the Rams in week 1 and gave us an encore again in week 2. Josh Allen, that guy. Again, MVP favorite for this season. I love his presence in the pocket. I love how poised he is and how he's carving up defenses left and right. Now, the relationship between him and Diggs, that's very dangerous because as the season goes on, it's just going to get better and better. And Diggs, as I said before, he's a problem. And I'm going to say that again. Stephon Diggs is a problem. He plays the game like a grown man. He's very reminiscent of Steve Smith. He go out there and he dominates his opponents. And he plays with a chip on his shoulder. And I love how he goes out there and he competes. Now, he dominated the Titans defense. Stephon Diggs by himself did. And we're not going to discredit anybody else from the Bills team, but Stephon Diggs, he dominated that Titans defense. And the Bills dominated in all phases of the game, offensively and defensively. And defensively, I mean, they got 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 1 interception return for a touchdown. Matt Milano, 40-yard interception return for a touchdown. And this team, the Bills are the complete package. Whether you want to admit it or not, they're the complete package that they're going out there and executing in all phases of the game, offensively, defensively, special teams. They have a damn good coach in Sean McDermott. Ken Dorsey's calling great calls. Leslie Frazier on the defensive side. Now, those are 2 names you guys keep your eyes on. Ken Dorsey, Leslie Frazier. When it comes to the end of the year and those open head coaching vacancies come up, be on the lookout. But again, the Bills dominate the Titans. And again, Ryan Tannehill, he had a really horrible game. Again, a game to forget. But they got to get better and better. The Bills get this win, 41-17. All right, to the second Monday night game. Now, I know I talked about the Bills and the Titans game, but I love this game right here. The Minnesota Vikings traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this is a game where a statement game, in my opinion, a statement game in a big way for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Kirk Cousins, he struggled big time and made a lot of mistakes, going 27 for 46 for 221 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. It's not winning football. Adam Thielen, he led the receivers with 4 receptions for 52 yards, and Justin Jefferson had 6 for 48 yards. Irv Smith had 5 receptions for 36 yards, 1 touchdown. But again, this game was about the Eagles. Eagles it was a lot of talk before the season in regards to Jalen Hurts. And is he really a quarterback in the NFL? You know what I'm saying? And what he did was he came out there and quieted when I say all of the spectators and the naysayers about his game and how he can play and how it translates in the NFL, he quieted them up. Now, he chipped in 26 for 31 for 333 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Now, he also had 11 carries for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. He started the game off 10 for 10 on the first 3 series, 153 yards and 1 touchdown, and he also had a rushing touchdown. Now, this is the first game that the Eagles have had a quarterback that has thrown for over 250 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns since Michael Vick did it in 2010. And he did that on Monday Night Football as well. Miles Sanders, nice solid game, 17 carries for 80 yards. And the Eagles had a lot of players chip in the receiving department. Dallas Goedert leading the way with 5 receptions for 82 yards. Devontae Smith, 7 receptions for 80 yards. And A.J. Brown, 5 receptions for 69 yards. And Quez Watkins, he had 2 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. But this was a game where the Eagles, they sent a message. They sent a message to the league. Jalen Hurts is here, and he's getting better week by week. The offense is running on all cylinders, and they're doing it. This team is ready to compete with anybody. And Jalen in itself, as what I observed in his game, he's improved so much with his mechanics in the pocket, and he looks like a completely different quarterback out there. And it's also time for the league. And I just got off the phone with him. We were texting. It's also time for the league to put some respect on my old teammate Darius Slay name. He's top 5 corner in his position, and he's in the top 5 in his position for a reason. And last night, I got to give him the game ball for the job he did on the field. Now, Minnesota, we know they have 2 amazing all-pro receivers, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. He literally went out there and competed and made game-changing and just playmaker slay, big play slay. He went out there and took the onus. He actually was in there locked in from the opening snap. Because again, when you're going out there playing against those guys, you got to be on your top game or it's going to be a long night. And he did that. Those receivers are talented. But again, this was not a good game for Kirk Cousins, who was coming off a solid opening week performance. But he had a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes costed him in a big way. And the Eagles get a great dominating 24-7 victory over the Vikings in prime time. So that's week 2 in itself. Amazing week. I mean, great football. Teams 2-0, some teams 1-1. Again, it's an amazing week. Guys got to continue to get better, and we all got to continue to get better in life. So guys, keep getting better, keep pushing. You know what? Week 3, I'm so excited for the games that we got coming on. And guys got to continue to build and get better. Take care of your mind, take care of your body, take care of your health, all that stuff. Because again, the team needs you on the field. And you got to make sure you're going out there putting your best foot forward to help your team. So guys, everybody have a beautiful and blessed week. Let's continue to grind. Let's continue to put roll our sleeves up and get our hands dirty. Let's go on out there. The glass is not half empty, it is half full, and we're still pouring into it. Everybody have a beautiful and blessed week. This is The Breakdown, X's and O's with Nate Ness. I'm your host, Nate Ness. Thank you very much, you guys.